Hello, Namaskar everyone. This is Pooja and Rashmi from Divine Valley. Namaskar Abhinav. Today we have Abhinav who will be discussing about Gupt Ganga, which is a spiritual place in Kashmir.
Namaskar. So today I will tell you something about a place called Gupt Ganga. It is located in Nishat, and it is not far from. There's a spring of the mountain, and most of the water for Kashmir Valley comes from there. It's called Sarban Spring, located in the higher reaches of the mountains there. So why is Gupt Ganga so important is because it has links with the old Puranas. It's been mentioned in Puranas as well as in a lot of mythologies. It's there. So the story goes that when Bhagirath did all his tapasya and he bought Gangaji from the Vaikunt to earth.
I missed
Bhagirath.
Rishi Bhagirath. And at that time, what happened was the Ganga was used to wash Vishnu's feet as well. So whatever water was remained there, it all percolated and started. It came out from this spring, which was known as Gupt Ganga. That's why it's called Gupt Ganga, and it is actually Ganga Ji ka hi स्रोत है वहाँ पे, so it has links to the old Puranas through that time.
So this water is like washed water from Vishnu's feet, which is
so
collected
it
there.
is as good as a Ganga water. So it was used within Kashmir Valley as well for pujas and for doing a lot of spiritual things. The water was used. And
so did it originate, like when the Ganga originated, did it originate at the same time?
And pretty much the same time. So the Ganga river went obviously to Gomukh and it started flowing from there. But this is also it came directly from Vaikunt, and this is the water which is as good as it can be considered as Ganga water.
Okay.
So there is a sarovar there, and it is all surrounded by chinar trees, and there is a small temple where there is some murtis of Shiva, and there are some other murtis as well, and there is a lingam, and that Shiv lingam is always submerged. It is under the water, and
Same spring water.
Yeah, it is always covered with spring water, and you can go and do the worship. Either you can go from a really it's a slight path and get into that small temple, or there is an opening from the top. You can just see and do your puja and everything else from the top.
You mean the water is so clear we can see like this and see the Shivlinga under it?
Yeah, the water is clear. I think now they have cleaned it. Few years back, I think 2012, I went there. It was not in a very good shape, and when I saw the temple from the top, there was hardly anything visible. So the site is under CRPF. At that time, it was under CRPF. So CRPF people lived there, and they asked me like, "What do you want to do?" And I said that my grandfather used to go and do the puja in the inner sanctorium, and they said that, but we have never been there. I don't how to go there. And I said there is a path from it is under the water, but there is a path. You can follow that and then go inside the temple. So somehow I went inside. I gathered some, because all that path was also full of leaves and mud, and it was all black. And somehow I went inside and I cleaned all the idols, and then they were all visible from the top. You could see. But
so under the water, how did you go? I mean, I didn't.
It is like somewhere like 3 feet of water, 3.5 feet of water. You can go and. So
but it's so sad these places, such spiritual places, they're not preserved.
But I've heard that they have now cleaned it up, and last 1 year and a half ago, it comes under the Dharma Trust, and I think they have done they and either them or the CRPF themselves, somebody might have taken the initiative to clean the Sarovar, and they have cleaned it up. And because most of the outlet of that Sarovar used to go out, but it was like a continuous flow of water, but a lot of locals had blocked all that outlet, and it was not in good shape. But I hope.
Why Gupta Ganga? Why Gupta Ganga? Why do we call it Gupta Ganga? Is it because people don't know it? It's part of Ganga, but it's like
because it is part of the Ganga, but it was hidden.
Hidden.
And
it's not flowing, or I think it's just in a spring shape, probably.
It is a square shaped spring, yeah.
So when we used to go Nishad or Chashme Shahi, we used to say the water there is very pure, we should get some water from there. Is it something to do with same? Because I think I had been in 2004 or something like that. There used to be some water coming out of some inside built some temple, and there was water flowing, and you needed to drink the water, and it was continuous flow. Is that?
So if you look at Kashmir Valley, there are hundreds or probably thousands of springs, and water comes out of if you go to Anantnag means Anant is numerous, numberless nags, and nags have special importance within our culture, because nagas are also connected with snakes in certain ways, and it is also connected to the tribe of people who used to live there before Maharishi Kashyap came into Kashmir. The people who used to live there were known as Nagas, and we have many stories based around Nagas. I mean, there is one beautiful story of Himal and Nagaraj, where it's very popular. So that was the kingdom of Nagas, and so that is another important aspect of different Nags in Kashmir.
Okay, so you are saying there may be many. We can't say it is the same one.
Yeah, there are many. Even if you look, even all the Nishad Bagh, Shalimar, and all these places, they were always there. It's not that Shah Jahan created Nishad Bagh or Shah Jahan created Harwan. Harwan was already there. If you go further up, all these, we call them Mughal gardens. Yeah, Mughals renovated them and renamed them according to their own, whatever they wanted to name them. But they were already there, and there are temples on top of these gardens. There's a temple on top of Harwan. There is a temple on top of Nishat, Nishat as well. There are some temples there, Devi temple.
So what we are kind of seeing here is a pattern that we had these important, historical or religious places, but then the people have come, they renovated it a bit and named it, and the history got wiped out in some ways.
Yeah, so as soon as the king changed, the kings changed, whosoever was in power, they used and they named it according to their own. It's human psyche. If you go to places, for example, United States of America, half of the places are named after England, half the places, but obviously people used to live there, the Native Americans. They have different names, but they are lost now. Nobody knows about them.
But I'm just trying to conclude here in the point that if we do not know about these places, it's simply because they have been renamed and their original significance was a bit lost in this kind of. That's why, even though I might be digressing from the topic, but it's just showing a pattern as per our earlier discussions also, that things have lost their significance, or that's why we don't know about these places.
See,
so one of the reasons. Now, sorry, just to conclude, do you have to say anything about more about this place, Gupta Ganga? Anything that you want?
Actually, I had one question. What is the difference between Nag and lake, or what could be the equivalent word in English for Nag? Or
Nag is spring, I think.
Nag is a natural spring.
Natural spring. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anything else that you would like people to know about Gupta Ganga?
Another important aspect is that a lot of lectures were delivered by Swami Lakshmanju in Gupt Ganga, and a lot of recordings have been done. So he used to conduct a class every Sunday within the hall. It was facilitated by the Maharaja at that time, and even he was very interested in Shaivism, and he still is. Dr. Karan Singh, he's one of he's very well versed in Shaivism, and he perhaps owns and has protected a lot of Kashmir Shaivism manuscripts before and after the Exodus as well.
Yeah, I think Dharma Trust is managing whatever sites are left there in Kashmir, in some shape or form.
A lot of manuscripts were moved in '90 from Kashmir to Rangdir Library, and they are still there and being taken care of. A lot of research needs to be done, and a lot of translation needs to be done. And people, first of all, people should also know that they are there. So whosoever is interested can look into it and get those translated and looked into, or at least scanned and saved for the future generations.
Okay, so I think then people who want to get these scripts, you are saying we can get those from Ranveer Library in Jammu city?
Yeah, they have a big collection of manuscripts there.
Yeah, so if anybody else has, if there is nothing else we want to discuss.
And I think yeah, even if there is any manuscript in Sharda Lipi or Sanskrit pertaining to Shaivism in anybody's private collection, they should scan it and put it, share it with other people, and so that share it with the research scholars and other people, and not keep it. Although very little is left, but whatever is left should be made available for everybody. Yeah.
So is there any particular site or any particular library or something where they can send, or we can put them in the description as well?
At the moment, I don't think anybody has taken the initiative to do it, but I think you guys are doing a great job in bringing things back to light, things which are hidden, and maybe people can share it on a drive, or if there is any manuscripts available, it can be made available for scholars to read and do research on.
So in that sense, we know a few groups who are, trying to transliterate from Sharda to Sanskrit or Sanskrit to Hindi. So if anybody has any of these, Shiv Strots or any information, any scripts, then please let us know, and we will we'll get you in touch with the right people to share this information. Thank you, Abhinav, for getting this point across, and it's very valuable if we can collect this information and keep it available for research. Thank you so much for joining us and for your time and knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you.
Namaskar.